If you want to trade like a rebel, you got to come to Rebelcon 2022. It's going to be in Dallas, Texas, at the fabulous Four Seasons Resort. It will be more fun and more live trading than we've ever done before. That's why it's called Rebelcon 2022. We're going to have barbecues and double the amount of live trading. The guest speakers, as soon as we announce those, this thing's going to be sold out, limited to 250 people. Sign up now for Rebelcon 2022 at the Four Seasons in Dallas, Texas.
Welcome to the Rebellion.
And here we go. I'm Pete Najarian. This is the take for Market Rebellion on this Thursday morning. But you go back to yesterday on Hump Day, and it was a hump day, and we jumped over that hump. The markets were ripping from the start all the way through the finish, and it really took off after we got to the Fed. But we also had those earnings that led into a very strong opening, and that certainly gave the markets a pretty good lift. The Fed, what everybody heard seemed to be something everybody wanted to hear, because we literally just took off like a rocket ship. We recaptured that 32,000 level for the Dow. We recaptured that 12,000 level for the NASDAQ. Today's a little bit of a different story. But anyway, yesterday, going back to that for one more moment, up over 400 points on the Dow, up over 470 points for the NASDAQ, a big 4% move for the NASDAQ. That was pretty extraordinary to see that kind of a move. We had crude at about 96, 97. In that kind of a range. Nat gas has been pulling back a little bit after that huge spike up almost to 10, but now sitting right around 850 yesterday. Volumes jumped yesterday. That was really nice, because we've been talking about this week. There's a lot of things that we try to focus on here that I don't hear a lot of other places. Nat gas being one of them. The extreme move that we had in nat gas over the last couple of weeks has been just extraordinary, and it just wasn't talked enough. I'm also very focused on these volumes. The volume's 38 million contracts, a little over that. We had a couple days in a row with 28 million contracts. So that is a monstrous jump. Not sure exactly what the absolute trigger was. Maybe people were kind of holding back for the Fed, but obviously it's earnings season. This week, one of the biggest weeks of earnings season, and that's something that was really, really puzzling. Here we go again. We've got some good volume. Now we have the volatility index right around 23. The VXN, the volatility for the NASDAQ, underneath 30, closed at 29.50. Gives you a little bit of an idea of just kind of that settling in that we have had and some of those moves, specifically yesterday, that big move for the NASDAQ, pretty incredible. We had the 2-year and the 10-year both closed underneath 3 yesterday. That was something that was very telling. Communications, absolutely ripping yesterday. We're looking at some of these sectors. When you got a sector that's up 5%, a sector, that is quite a statement. That was huge. Technology, up well over 4%. We had consumer discretion, almost a 4% move to the upside. You got to get the flavor and the feel that it was a lot of different areas and monstrous moves across so many different parts of the different sectors. Energy was even up 2% yesterday. Industrials, financials, materials, all up 1.25% or more yesterday. So it gives you a great idea of just what was going on, earnings, and the embracing of a lot of those earnings. So Chipotle, I don't mention that name a lot, but we never see this option activity in there. It frustrates the heck out of me. But that CEO has done an absolute magnificent job since coming over and has been able to implement a lot of different things and pulling a lot of different triggers. I'll tell you what, that stock was absolutely on fire yesterday. PayPal, a nice performance. Google, NVIDIA, Hilton, Marvell, Texas Instruments post earnings, a great performance yesterday. Meta going into their earnings was looking pretty decent yesterday, probably just getting swallowed up and pulled along, especially after we see what happened today. Microsoft, of course, had a great day. Salesforce, Apple, Caterpillar, but not everything was great yesterday, despite the fact that we were up as much as we were. Sherwin-Williams, terrible. Garmin, awful. Humana, not so great. Clorox, I take a look over at something like a Kimberly-Clark. People were running away from those kinds of names. 3M gave a little bit back after a big, huge move the previous day. Understandable. Moderna. By the way, guys, every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, and we may shift this around, but that's the program right now at noon, you will be able to tune in to watch John and myself with the Rebel's Edge. What is Rebel's Edge? John and I getting together. It's a pardon the interruption, style for the financial world. So what we do is we cover four areas in the marketplace. We cover 2 unusuals, and then we get 2 sports, all of which all have to happen within that same time frame, 1 minute and 30 seconds. And then we're off and running to the next one. So a lot of fun. You got to tune in. It's great. We're getting a lot of great feedback. Love to hear feedback as well. A lot of people so far have been just outstanding across the country, letting us know exactly what they like. And if they don't like something, they can voice that as well. So I'd love to hear from you. But so far, so good. We love it. And if you're watching and it's on YouTube, you've got to hit those buttons, man. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, all those things. We'd love to have you do that. So we get into today. After an explosive move yesterday, it's understandable that we start off very, very quiet, which is exactly what we did early on. I'm looking at the markets 15, 20 minutes before we actually had the opening bell. Neither the NASDAQ or the Dow was moving up or down more than about 15 points. That is really, really tight and fairly unusual, quite honestly. Well, early on, we started to see a little bit of power in the Dow itself, started to move up a little bit. NASDAQ, not so much. It was down about 5. Both have been absolutely moving to the downside very rapidly in this first hour of trade. Things can change. But in the first hour, last I looked, right before coming on here, the Dow was down 210 points, NASDAQ down 135 points. Gives you an idea. Just a steady pace to the downside was exactly what we were watching. Crude, which started off at 99, it was trading below 98 and a lot closer to the 97. Bitcoin, holding on to a lot of it, but it was up 8%. It was over 23,000. Now, we were just talking about Bitcoin the other day, and this slide from 24,000 down towards 20,000, a really nice performance start to the day for Bitcoin. We'll see if they can hold on to that. Early on, the volatility index around 22. After we get a little bit of that selling pressure, you see it move up a little bit towards 23, into the 23s. The 2-year, 10-year still underneath 3, 2 years at 2.9. Looking over at the 10-year to right around 2.7. Powell, the big discussion, it seemed like yesterday, everybody has to get this word, recession. It's kind of crazy. I think you just got to look at these numbers. He said what they were going to do. They stood by what they said we were going to do, 75 basis points. Going forward, we're going to likely see 75 basis points, but that is not settled yet. That's out in September. And that will be something that will be data-driven. They've been very, very clear about this, guys. And it's very interesting to see how many reporters just keep on asking these same questions. And yet Powell has been very, very solid with a lot of those answers about what they're doing, how they're doing it, what are the metrics they're looking at, and all of that. So it's pretty interesting. GDP down about 1.6. So that was something that probably shook the markets a little bit. It certainly seemed to have some sort of reaction with the markets. What else is slipping? Materials slipping early on. They were up about 1%. They started to slide. Industrials up about 1%. That started to slide. Energy was up 1.5% early on. As crude started to drop, so did those energy names. They went from being up 1.5% to down about 1%. Utilities, nice strong start to the day, still up about 2%, but that's off of the highs of the day as well. Communications, that sector that was ripping yesterday, started off not so great, down about 1.5%. Last I looked, it was down closer to 2.5%. Technology slipped after being flat, down about 0.5%. Financials stand out. They weren't doing much of anything early on. This first hour of trading, last I looked, they were getting hit pretty aggressively as well. The other storyline today, of course, it's earnings season. We talk about it all the time. We had all those great numbers the other day. There's plenty coming this afternoon as well. It's going to be huge. But we did hear from Meta, and those numbers, slowing ad business. Not quite the same exact type of wording that we heard from Snap, but certainly not something that people were ready to hear, and they weren't very happy to hear it. So the selling became something that got pretty aggressive right out of the gates. So Constellation, that's working right now very, very nicely to the upside. Ford with some nice numbers post earnings. That stock was working out very, very nicely early on. Honeywell, Tesla, CrowdStrike, Caterpillar, Nike, all very strong early on, but we've seen the market start to slip. We also know why some of the reason they're slipping. Stanley Black & Decker, absolutely getting smoked today. Meta, I just talked about that, getting hit pretty hard as well. You got Southwest looking on the outside. That stock's down a little bit as well. Comcast down for a lot of various reasons. PDD, GD, JD down. So those Chinese names with a little bit of a hit. Qualcomm, that week, they did okay for the quarter, but when they had that weak guidance, people just all of a sudden started to put those palm out and sell Mortimer. Now, Merck, Salesforce also joining a little bit on that downside. So pretty broad what we were seeing hitting as we were just talking about sector by sector. I've got two unusuals. We're out of here. Bloom Energy, BE, that's going to be number one. It was trading just below $21 a share. We had a buyer of 2,400 of the August 21s, right on top where the stock is trading, looking for a little bit more of a bounce to the upside, maybe get a move, but you also have time. These don't expire tomorrow. They don't expire next week. We get to go all the way out to a regular August expiration. Those are about $1.50 for those calls. Next, the Global Clean Energy ETF, ICLN. This one's been hitting a little bit. We also have a little bit more in the EV space hitting right now, some of the battery charging and the rest of that. But this ICLN, $22, 6,000 of the August 22 calls being bought for about 80 cents. What makes this interesting is somebody who had bought the August 20 calls not too terribly long ago was selling out of about 50% of those calls for a profit to roll up to these 22 calls. So keep that in mind as well. That's something we always do like to see. Somebody who's had success, they want to have a little bit more success, and they actually feel like a stock's got a little bit more room to the upside. They're taking money off the table, very smart move, discipline, and now putting some money back in for a little bit more upside. We'll see if that's going to be right. Folks, have a great day of trading. We will have Rebel's Edge at noon. It'll be 1 o'clock Eastern. It's noon Central. John and myself looking forward to it. AJ was a great fill-in the other day. I don't even want to call him a fill-in. He just did an outstanding job as well. We got John back with us today. Looking forward to that. Have a great rest of your day.